Wasting any time here?
Yes. Let's go to 7D, West Industrial Lots. Jeff, maybe you want to address that for us? Thank you.
Once again, Council, I'm just looking for a little bit of feedback on a few items. Last time we were directed to see kind of regionally if there was some sale prices we could compare. We had presented to you a schedule before that showed total cost per acre for development, which was even inclusive of the highway expansion for the intersection, is about just roughly $35,000 an acre is what if we put everything in. Now that's spreading, for example, that highway intersection over the entire 66 acres. But that puts us at 35 an acre. The question was, is that competitive? And when we looked, we didn't, you know, many of the small towns regionally are still trying to figure a few things out, but we found that 35 is probably pretty low. I mean, it's very competitive. It would be a very discounted rate for acres of commercial service land in the region. Of course, you get to Lethbridge and the prices are quite obscene, over about $200,000 an acre. And then their levy on top of that is $200,000 an acre.
Yeah.
So that gets quite wild. Pincher Creek was kind of all over the map. They went and theirs was quite dependent on location, whether it was in the new area where the highway had been, and UFA and Walmart and things like that. So they were anywhere from 38,000 to 160,000, depending on location and size. So the one that was 36,000, 35,000 was the largest parcel. So I'm guessing the bulk of it wasn't serviced. Claresholm had nothing they could offer us. Raymond didn't have any industrial land. The last lot that sold of industrial was 35,000. Fort McLeod is right in the middle, and if you go down there, you see they're right in the middle of some massive development. So they said they wanted to reserve stating any prices for industrial land until they could work through all their costs on this development they're doing. They had some historic ones that were, I mean, it was all over the place. So. Those are some of the numbers we got. My feeling, and when we talked to a potential purchaser a few years ago, at that time we talked about $40,000 an acre, and they felt that was very competitive compared to what they've been looking at regionally for land as well. Do you want me to get that turned off there?
Yeah, I think.
Getting a little chilly? Oh, there you go.
Say noise apology.
Should be good. So there's just a couple of things I'd like some direction on here. One is prices. What we talked about a few meetings ago was, in order to incent potential sales of the lot, does council want to eat labor and machine time to really get those prices down to be quite a financial incentive for people to purchase them? Is that something we want to entertain? Given the regional prices we're seeing for lots, I'm not sure that we need to. Like, I'm not sure we have to leave that on the table. But that's one thing I want a little direction on. The other thing, as you saw on the map, is we've proposed a phased approach that we can advertise in developing this. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is you can start to budget each phase in a little more bite-sized pieces. I certainly can't bring you a capital budget of $1.7 million for the West Industrial when we have $129,000 in land reserves. You know, it simply can't be funded. So we looked at a phased approach. And so what that presents is, what if somebody, like a presentation you had about 4 or 5 months ago, wants a lot out of the current phase? You know, how do we want to deal with that? So somebody says, well, I want to buy something deep in phase 2. But we don't intend to extend utilities or roads or any other services into phase 2. So we need to have some feedback on how we want to deal with phasing. My opinion is we allow the sale at our set price. They just know going in that they buy it without services until the time that previous phases are sold. It's about that straightforward. If you don't want to buy within the phase, then you buy it without servicing. The other thing is, we've talked about making them commissionable, and from my position I support this. We haven't in the past allowed our town-owned land in the last probably 10 years to be sold by realtors. And I know that was, I think, a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to some issues back long before my time. But I think in this case, where it's commercial, and council has the discretion to sell it with development agreements and 1224 clauses, I don't see anyone buying it on speculation. We simply wouldn't allow it. which was the issue, I believe, years ago, that so much of the town land was bought on speculation, held, resold, and in this case, we just simply wouldn't allow it to be bought on speculation. So I know I've talked to realtors, I haven't had this conversation with you, Councillor, but realtors who said, yeah, I get people asking me about town land, but I don't show them anything, or about commercial land, I don't show them town land because I can't make anything on it. There's no incentive for me to do that. So I think if we want to be competitive and fill this, we make it commissionable and we add that cost into the price of the lot. So there was pricing, phases, commission, and then if there's some direction to start budgeting this in our capital budgets going forward. We don't need to turn any shovels right now, but we can start in the new year. And there's two conditions I put on this in the budget. One is that expenses are contingent on sale. So we're not going to go dump 600 grand into it right away without any sales to offset that. We just don't have the cash to do it. That's the simple math. And that there isn't a highway expansion until there's a major acre tenant there that requires it. Because we can loop 2nd Avenue and open up phase 2 if we need to, without having to do that highway expansion if we don't have an acre tenant at this point for that spot. Because that's an expensive deal. Now, we may go down the road with transportation to see if they'll help us with costs. But ironically, we've been having this whole discussion about private land development. I've talked to transportation and they said where the change to the highway is development driven, we don't participate in the costs. Because the municipality is the recipient of the funds when you sell the land. It's literally the same argument that transportation has had that we're having. I sat with them and I couldn't even argue because we had a policy that mimicked their position. And they said, you guys are the recipient of the money, factor it in your cost per acre. Now that's not to say you couldn't push them a little politically and see if we could get some help with something along the way. And so those are the things I was looking at. Pricing, phasing, starting to budget this with a couple of conditions and commission. I'd like some feedback and I'll get this killed for you.
So maybe let's start with the pricing. I think in the past we had said 40,000 was what one buyer was willing to buy and felt very, very reasonable. So if we need to make it commissionable, we might need to push it a little bit higher.
So our costs are 35 an acre.
Okay, so if
So
we have
commission would probably add 1,200. Councillors, 4% on land?
5 usually.
5? Okay, so another $1,500 roughly.
Okay,
to
so if the land was
$2,000.
40,000, we would be within
That's what
recouping
$2,000,
our
yeah.
cost, right?
Would we want to have a portion of that reserved going towards that highway issue?
Well, what I would suggest is everything goes to land reserves and we fund the highway through land reserves. Is how I would do it in the budget anyways. All revenue would go there and we would fund the project with,
Right.
we may have to slide some grant funding in there, MSI or something down the road, but all the town portion would come from land reserves.
So,
How many acres is there in there, these phases?
66.
So in phase 1?
Oh, no, sorry. I don't know in
Yeah.
each phase, Councillor. I'm sorry, we just overlaid and tried to look at what the logical connection would be there. So it's probably about 15, roughly 15 dividing it by 4, 15, 16 per
In
phase.
each phase.
Yeah.
So if you sold this whole thing 15 times $10,000,
600.
right?
Yeah, so you're 600 grand
Yeah, okay, perfect.
per phase, yeah.
Okay,
The other thing to remember, Councillor, this is really the town's last kick at putting money in land reserves.
yes,
We don't have any substantial parcels of land after this.
we
That's
have
it.
nothing.
And right now, we're going to talk about land purchase here in a few minutes. Now that was with the intent to flip it, so we should be okay there long term, but this is our last kick at land reserves.
So
Not
essentially,
making land anymore.
what is your position,
It's privately owned.
Council? $40,000 an acre, no less than. Can you live with this?
That's
In order to attract
extremely
people?
reasonable price
For serviced,
for service.
Yeah.
road, power,
Yeah.
sewer, water.
Extremely reasonable.
Okay.
Essentially, we try to attract people, that's our aim,
Yep.
that's the economic
That's right.
development driver for us.
Yeah.
So 40,000, we can live with that. The
Yeah.
other one, can we, is it reasonable to develop that in phases?
I think that's the only way you can do it.
Personally, it's my opinion too.
Yep.
Councillor Bengry, what's your opinion on that one, developing phases?
Well,
And if someone wanted to buy? Okay, go ahead.
We're talking industrial land. And like Councillor Barnes says, that's extremely reasonable pricing. I mean, it's under reasonable, if I think of it that way.
That'd be several $1 million in Calgary.
Yeah. Well, but we're not talking.
I know, I'm just saying.
Because I can say, that's just my comment that maybe we're under reasonable. Secondly, we're foolish not to open it up to commissions. Because who knows more of what's going around in real estate than a realtor?
And I agree with you.
You know, if they look in their magazines and they see an
Yeah.
industry that could be used in Cardston, they're gonna contact that person and say, hey, I've got some land down here, bring your industry to us.
Yeah.
I mean, realtors are that way.
But we have to realize that up to now, we have not sold really industrial lots, so we don't
Well,
really
we've
know.
never given any incentive to
Right,
somebody to sell
and we
it.
really don't know if it's going to buy it or not, right? So we hope.
One thing I forgot to mention on the phasing, that I'm wondering if we should consider, and because it was in camera, you had a proposal a few months ago about buying 4 acres down, not in what would be phase 1, it would be in the back of
Yes.
phase 2 now, right?
Yeah.
So we may find that you have a developer or someone needing land saying, I'm not prepared to pay that. Maybe we look at when it's out of phase, they pay a reduced price, and then when the services are in, they have to pay the difference. You know, there may be something like that, because what if it's 20 years until the next phase happens? What if it's a really, and in this case, we don't want that person in phase 1.
Yeah.
That was the other piece of the
type of
discussion.
business
It was
that
council's
is,
preference that they go in the back for.
Back corner.
So I wonder if we want to, when we put this all together, if there's a way to say, okay, here's the price out of phase, but you sign in your purchase agreement that at the time that the utility is extended,
You have to
all the
kick in
difference is due.
Yeah.
Yeah, just got a question on the phasing. I don't know, you probably had, some rationale of, which ones you were phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, but would there be a possibility if the demand changes from what you expect, that phase 3 might become phase 1, or
Yeah,
phase 2 might become phase 1?
The reason phase 1 is where it is we have water, sewer, and drainage to where Second Avenue ends now. So it's right on the east side of phase 1.
Right.
So you're not running a line.
Yeah, so phase 1 is in the closest proximity to
That's
services.
probably the rationale.
Yeah, yeah.
For where the utilities end
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
But like I say, if the development looks like it's going to be happening, on the south end or something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
maybe, would there be possibility that
Sure.
maybe changing the
Sure.
order of the phasing or something?
Yeah,
like
the
that?
other thing to keep in mind is aside from the roads, none of this is subdivided. Well, the roads aren't even subdivided right now. So really, if a user had a unique need and said, well, I need like 3.5 of those lots. Well, as long as it didn't interfere with a road or a utility, we can still subdivide to suit. We happen to break it up in relatively even boxes just for the sake of conversation.
All right,
But you may have somebody that needs an acre and somebody that needs 6 acres, and we can subdivide accordingly.
So I'm prepared to make a motion to direct council to make this area commissionable, do it in phases, and the pricing of $40,000 is being reasonable.
okay, you mean to direct administration?
Yeah.
Is that what I said?
You said
Yeah, that's
council.
what I said.
Oh.
If any of you want to come in.
I knew what I meant.
If any of you want to stop in and do all this, I'm
I
fine
was
with
reading
that.
All right, so any further question regarding that? I think it's a good thing that this council is willing to move forward with the industrial area. We need to do that.
Just a question before we move on to
Appreciate your
the
help.
vote here.
Go ahead.
Has the discussion been made with the neighbor to the west there about the road closure and the access roads to his property?
Oh, yes.
Okay. and
Yeah,
he's
sorry,
okay.
try Mr. Baird.
Yes.
Yes, I met with him.
Okay, and
So
said
he's amicable to an arrangement
Yeah,
with us,
okay,
yeah.
he was
Yeah.
last time.
He was actually
already.
very good.
Okay, good.
Okay, good point. All in favor? Thank you. So I'm quite pleased with that one. I think it's going to help us.
I just wanted to bring up something here too. Right now, we've got that rest area there. Who owns that rest area land there?
It's in the right of way.
It's in the right of way.
Yeah.
So it's really
Provincial.
part of our land, or is it provincial?
Provincial, yes, it's in the
Okay.
right of way. Those highways have really wide, I think it's 30 meters on each side.
On each side, yeah,
They're huge right of ways.
because of for future development possibilities,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they're really big.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, the next point, 7E, is a tax penalty waiver. As you know, we do not need to disclose the name of the person. The property has an account attached to it. And if you give me a second. I
We
can
just have the
find it.
address, Mayor. We didn't put
The
roll
account
number.
is, you have the address?
It's
275 or
275, yeah.
Okay, all right. Essentially, the tax penalty are fairly heavy on the amount of tax owing. So the owners of a property have come to the town and have developed an agreement with the town to be able to repay within 2 years the whole amount of taxes that would be due at this point, plus the taxes that would be due in 2018, bringing them current as of the end of June 2018, at which point they would be on a TIP program to help them monitor that. The difficulty that happened was employment that was discontinued at one point, and that created very serious economic and financial difficulty. I appreciate when owners of property come to the town and discuss with administration a plan to make themselves current. They're aware of what they owe, but they're also looking for a little bit of help by having the tax penalty waived. And I think when there's such goodwill, it is not a bad thing for council to view that. We've done it before
Say we have a
for
precedent set.
other taxpayer. Taxes will be paid in full, and the waiving only follows is dependent on schedule being, the payment being repaid according to schedule drawn up. Councillor Bengry?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, would you like to do that,
Can I ask a quick question before that?
please?
If I might. Jill had prepared 3 tables just to give you some idea. She talked with the homeowner about council waiving potentially only the January 1st penalties. Those are the big ones every year.
Right,
And then she has another option with waiving all penalties. This is a home that was slated for tax sale in August. And so this is the most severe we've seen in trying to get caught up. So they have quite a road ahead of them.
Before I make this motion, Jeff, how many years in arrears is this taxes?
So they are 3 full years in arrears.
yeah, it's 3 years.
So the intention there is if they can get current by the end of 2018, even including 2018's levies, then the other condition of this is they go on the prepayment program, so we don't find ourselves here again. That's one of the conditions of the agreement we're proposing.
Have they looked at all the 3 different options?
Yeah, obviously you know what their most preferred one is.
If I might, Mayor, I would suggest to council that within your motion, you put whichever option that we as a council put in there, and I would like to see it be all the penalties. I don't think that, if the purpose for this is to get them current,
It
I
makes
don't
no
see any
sense.
advantage to have any penalties attached to it.
Yeah, I can agree with you.
So Jill drafted a motion, if I might, just to capture most of the stuff we'd be looking for administratively, that's in your background there. And the motion she drafted, by the way, is for full waiver of tax penalties.
Okay.
Are you ready to add that motion, Mayor?
Go ahead.
I make a motion that the council agrees to waive the tax penalties for 275 4th Street East as long as the payment schedule is adhered to. If the payment schedule is not adhered to, the agreement will become null and void, and the waived penalties will be applied, and the property owner must sign up for the TIP program upon the completion of the payment schedule. The schedule is Schedule 3. No penalties.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Sorry.
One thing, if I just thought of, if anyone ever questions, well, why can't, maybe I should do this so I don't have to pay penalties if I'm late. These people have incurred significant penalties over the 3 years, and we're not waiving those. So over the last 3 years, they've incurred those January 1st penalties. In that amount they're paying down is an incredible amount of penalty. So you're not waiving those, you're waiving everything on the balance going forward if they stick to that schedule. So I think you can justify that somewhat. They've incurred significant penalty by this point. And we're just trying to help them get ahead of the game.
Yeah, there's no sense kicking a person when they're down. And they're, I know these people, and they're good people. They're working really hard to get out of it.
Essentially, the whole point of taxes is to get them paid.
Yeah.
And we
They
all
want to retain
winners.
the house too, and that's something.
We all winners when taxes are paid, and sometime when there are economic downturn, I think we need to do our part.
Yeah.
All right, under 7F, on-site premises evaluation. As you can see, last time when we were at council, we had asked administration to draw up a little bit of a table to help us be more efficient in the way we would evaluate if a property was unsightly, and which would be the criteria that would be used. So it's for your review and your discussion. Any questions?
I like the table. I think it gives us a framework to go into each property with and make that determination. So I think it's good.
I like it too. I just wondered, are we doing it on a point basis or a check?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Just it's 1 point for each one of them.
Yeah,
What's
so
that
it's
here?
a
So check mark
maximum
means a
of-
point.
Okay, yeah.
The other thing we looked at, we could simply do is if we said each one has so many points and you rank it on severity.
Yeah.
And then you could look at your total points. So let's say
Yeah.
each line was 5 points, 5 being the most severe, 1 being the least.
We could weigh
You
it.
could do each one
Yeah.
as severity and then
That's
your
probably
highest.
better. That's probably better.
That's kind of what I was
Yeah, so
thinking.
easy enough to
Yeah.
change. We weren't sure which way to go there.
Yeah.
So we,
I like that,
a weighted scale.
Because then you could have
Yeah.
2 houses with abandoned cars in the back, but one's got 9 and one's got 1.
Yeah.
So the severity is the
Yeah.
same issue, but higher severity.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that would be a
Okay.
better
And then
mix.
what do we put as the threshold of, is there a threshold where we take certain actions on those, point
How many points,
accumulation?
So.
what's a percentage?
Yeah, so our thought was that, no, but that any property being evaluated probably needs some level of reminder and care.
Yeah.
This would just prioritize the ones we're gonna push harder.
Okay.
That would be the thought. Not to take mine, for example, because I got a lot of stuff in my driveway, but, I'm hoping you're not having to go to every home and say, okay, well, the 99% of these didn't pass our threshold. You're just gonna go look at 8 homes that we know are problems and prioritize them and say, yes, we have sound justification that we can really push this hard.
Right.
So the second question I wanted to ask is who and when?
Well, we had said last time, when we asked the question, I said I would be, Councillor Barfuss said would be, Councillor Tweed said would be. I know at least of those 3, if I remember right. Am I correct?
It's Peavoy and Barfuss and
And Councillor Peavoy.
Creed, yeah.
Or,
Yes.
do you prefer, do we want to go around?
I would say we still have a little bit of time, sure.
Yeah, tell me.
This coming next week.
We should talk about Yeah, maybe we can.
That's this week, so.
Yeah, the week of the 15th would work for me, the week after does not work for me.
Mayor, I've got some concerns about some of these criteria. Number 6 and number 7. Unorganized storing of building materials or metals including machinery and auto and truck and other types of vehicles, parts or other contraptions. All right, it's the auto, truck, and other types of vehicles. And then 7 says, permitting a motor vehicle or parts thereof which are in an unsafe or unsightly condition to remain outside a building or on a property, incapable of movement under its own power.
Yeah.
Now, explain both of those to me.
Okay.
Because at one given time, I've probably got 5 vehicles in my house right now.
Are they capable of moving under their own power?
Absolutely.
Okay,
But
so
they
they
don't
don't,
have
They're
any-
used all the time.
then they don't
And they
fit
don't
under
fit the
7, so
criteria.
they're fine. And you don't have them parted out and laying across your lawn. I've lived across for 12 years, so I know I'm being hypothetical.
I don't,
So you don't have a problem.
So you wouldn't qualify.
What it's looking for is those junk cars that are sitting out in front of vehicles that are being parted out, if
A
nothing
heap
else,
of metal.
for 10 or 15 years, and they're running an auto wrecking yard out of
And they
it.
can't
Or
move.
used for storage.
Yeah.
Or used for
But,
storage.
however, I know of a situation where there's 4 cars or 5 units that are parked on a lawn, on a property, and every one of them are movable under their own power.
But it's at sightly.
But it's unsightly.
Okay,
So-
well, there you
They're
go.
never moved.
Hence the reason for
No,
6.
some of them have moved.
But that's the reason for 6 and 7. And we're not going to any of these places if there's not a reason to be to them to begin with.
Right.
So you probably haven't had somebody calling the town saying, Councillor Bengry's got a junkyard running in front of his yard here right now. It
Well,
didn't-
but I've had some neighbors call me about
Jeff, did
other
you call him?
properties.
No, I didn't know, I promise.
All right. Councillor Bengry, let me help you with those criteria. Those criteria come from the bylaw that we have. They were extracted from the bylaws. They have not been created for this purpose. So they are already in place. We have not reinvented the wheel there. We have extracted them and put them on a table form. That's all what has happened. Correct, Jeff?
Correct.
In fact, if you read 7 there carefully, it says that where they are in an unsafe or unsightly condition. So in the case that you gave, they're in an unsightly condition.
Well, 3 and 4 are the same.
Yeah.
Oh, they actually are literally the same.
They're literally the same.
All right.
They are duplicates.
So we renumber them.
Yeah, okay, I can fix that.
2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 7.
And
I guess
not,
it's good materials and equipment, so the bylaw.
not
is
neat
specific.
organized due to lack of care and attention. Okay, what are we talking about there?
It's messy.
Weeds, grass, I don't know.
It could be anything. The yard looks disgusting.
You know, Councillor Bengry, you are bringing a point that I brought up myself. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
That's right.
And but you know something?
There's some extremes though.
The
down
human
there.
the human eye has a tendency to recognize what's appealing to the eye and what is not. And you know it when you see it. It's not always so easy to describe point by point, but you know it instinctively.
And I think it's important to note that this is just a guideline. This
Yeah.
is just for us to be able to have a way of scoring things
Yeah.
to
It's-
know where the emphasis needs to be placed at.
It's somewhat subjective,
It's gotta be.
you know.
This is
You're
just a
quite right.
guideline, but you're gonna get caught with just a guideline. Somebody's gonna say, just a minute, in your opinion,
That's
my
right.
property is unsightly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you can go where?
But you know something?
So let's get some teeth into this thing and say, okay, this, you know,
You want
Whose
to walk
opinion
it
is
down.
it gonna be unsightly?
Well,
The-
it's the opinion of 2 or 3 people
Yeah.
that are there.
I don't think so.
that-
It's the council committee's
You know,
opinion.
and each
Yeah.
one,
That's
each
why
one
we've
of
got council
us,
going.
We usually
The-
start that with a complaint.
the best way to do it is you go to a property, you have 4 people going there, you have 4 clipboard, each one has a sheet, do it, and altogether you put it together and you can see. 4 opinion is not bad. 2 person constitute a witness of something. 4 is not bad.
Have we got parking bylaws in situations where we have rental properties with abandoned vehicles or unregistered vehicles on them? Lethbridge has a parking bylaw that says that you cannot rent a property and leave an unregistered, unlicensed vehicle on that property.
In front of it, or on the property?
Yeah.
Is it
In
on the
front of or
property as well?
On the property, period. So now, do we need to develop some bylaws like that?
Is that an acute issue in the community?
Yep.
Well, yes, it is.
But these two, there's property up there and has several unlicensed vehicles sitting out there and the neighbors aren't happy at all.
And that should be one on your tour.
Yeah,
Okay,
so,
All right.
but I do like that, and that would solve an issue with that owner. When you go to see him, he said, well, there's nothing in the bylaw that says I can't have 5 or 6 vehicles on my lot. But if we had that in the
But if
bylaw,
it's unsightly,
if it becomes unsightly, then it should be there.
I understand what you're saying. For some people, you will have to be very technically developed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I know
Okay.
one I'm thinking of, every time that they're approached, there's a big to-do over it.
Yeah,
And nothing seems to get done.
okay. Well, if we need to develop a bylaw, then we shall.
Yeah.
Anything else we need to give to
Do we
administration?
want to pick a time? Let's all meet.
Okay, if you are doing next Monday, is that okay with?
Monday I can do,
next-
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday next week I can.
Okay, so next Monday would be the perfect time. 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock?
I think I just got an appointment. booked
Morning
for-
might be okay.
Afternoon
Is
might
9
be better
o'clock
for me.
good?
Afternoon's not good for me.
Let me see here.
9 o'clock, do you want to start?
I think I have an appointment in Calgary early in the morning.
Oh,
I'm just checking here.
You may just have to take who you can get for the first go.
Independently?
Yeah, I have a 10:30 appointment in Lethbridge. So if we did it really in half an hour, so I could be
I doubt it.
there by 10:30, then I can do that.
No,
You
no.
wouldn't.
Or do it
You gotta do
really
it
early.
right, unless you got a
If I'm
vehicle.
game for getting up earlier, doing it earlier, or anytime in the afternoon.
Go 8?
Afternoon is not good for councillor.
Well, I have an appointment, but I don't know what time they're going to call me, but it will be Monday afternoon, so it'll.
I can do 8 AM, and if we got an hour, then.
But I just don't know when.
Okay, do we want to start at 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
8
It's
o'clock?
2 o'clock.
Okay,
Okay, I'll have Lloyd there ready to go out with you.
okay,
Get
thank
the
you.
forms done and he'll be there.
All right, thank you. And so let's meet here at the town, and then we'll decide how we do it. Okay, committee and other report on the 9th. As you know, most of our committees were adjourned, so.
Finance, have we done finance?
I'm
Mayor, I
sorry.
apologize because I've got a couple of committee reports that I need to sit down and type out.
So, but don't worry about that really.
Do those in September.
We'll do it. On the 8th financial report, you have the June 2016 financials. As you can see, we are doing quite well. There is more receivable, more payable than usual, but that does not mean that they're not current. They're current. It's just a matter of more more different projects that are being done and more money being dispersed, that's all what it means.
I'll make a motion to accept the financial statements as presented.
Okay,
I have a question
Question.
on the revenues and expenses. I've never noticed this before, but on the full budget, is that annual full budget, or is that full budget kind of tweaked for that period of the year?
That should be annual.
That should be the whole annual.
Yes.
oh yeah, full budget.
Whereas the actual is to date, right?
The actual is to date. What I couldn't understand is that on the end there, I didn't think we budgeted a deficit, but it looked to me like the full budget shows a deficit, and I couldn't understand what.
Probably includes depreciation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
we
do you
have-
remember how can
We
you
have
say
two,
that?
yeah, you're on amortization, just 4 lines up.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's included in it. All right,
Yeah.
I got it. All
Yeah,
right.
no, you totally
In fact, that
correct.
is the
You
same
could
as
It's
not-
the exact same number.
The same number, almost.
Well, within $2, yeah.
Yeah, you could not have a budget
Yeah.
with a
Okay, got it.
deficit, it could not happen. Okay, we have a motion on the table, are in favor? Thank you. Financial are approved. And I really appreciate Horken way of presenting our financial is very clear and very
Yeah.
well annotated. So you may thank him
No, he does a good job.
for us. So the committee reports, we were not worried about the committee reports per se. You have the project report. Jeff, I have a question regarding the project report. There was inside there something we had said we were going to fix some issues on Moses Lake from past sewer removal of infrastructure. What's happening now?
It'll just be timed so that when we have the pavers in and all that stuff, that they can hit all those
Oh,
spots as
okay,
well.
so it might not be within the...
Second Avenue's done. Couple other things are tidying up, so they'll probably find themselves there pretty soon, and then the pavers will come in and do everything.
Okay, that's
Do you
good.
know when the pavers are gonna be in?
I don't, but I'll bet it's September,
It's always
probably
September.
late September.
And hopefully it's not
That late, eh?
We're usually last on the list.
Yeah.
We're after Lethbridge, and Lethbridge has a lot to do this year too. Okay, so that's good. A strategic plan report, you could see a little bit where we at with what we have. Some points are maybe not as current, for example, the college is really kind of in the dumps. Pretty big.
Yep, my last conversation with the president was basically, unless something dramatically changed and got dropped in, that there's no sense in holding any more meetings at this point.
Okay.
We still have that $5,000 budget?
Nothing's ever been spent.
No, it never was
Spent.
spent.
No,
Yeah.
never drew on it at all.
All right, well, maybe that's not where we're going to.
I
I
would
had-
suggest that it's probably not a place to keep money stored for now.
No, I had high hopes, but
Yep, as did I.
unfortunately, things have changed. Bylaw animal control reports, you could see that our peace officer has done a fair amount of hours walking around Main Street, about over 15 hours, so it's quite a bit.
Mayor,
Yes,
can I speak to this peace officer report?
yes.
I'm impressed with his report, but I'm also impressed with the Toronto Dominion Bank taking the initiative to hire security. And I'm not wondering if there's any way that this town could go to those other banks and suggest that they maybe look at what Toronto Dominion has done.
But don't you think I see it?
Well, they might see it, but with sort of shaded eyes. And if we say, hey, let's increase their activity in their bank, people like what they're seeing,
Can I
could
suggest,
we encourage maybe something like that? Because It's a write-off to that bank, but it's also doing something with that part of Main Street, which I like.
Okay, what happened is the customers that initiated that response. The customers went to the managers and said that didn't feel safe coming in the bank. That was the outcome of those conversations. And so if the customer were doing the same at the Royal Bank, if they really didn't feel safe, I would imagine the bank would have to take similar measures. And that's really people's business, and they have to gauge it. You could say the same thing with pharmacies, right? But right now we see way less trucks parked there all day long. What we see more of is a congregation on the north side of the block. And Holton is asking those folks to go on the north side if they want to socialize, and that's where they are going. So they're not on the front of businesses as often as they used to be. Maybe that's helping the merchants.
I have a comment. This morning I went downtown to the pharmacy. I noticed there were a couple of people already sacked out in front of Dr. Olson's little alcove, and our assisted bylaw man come walk along there, said hello and walk on, come over and said hello to me. Didn't do nothing about them. They need to be moved along. They were tanked up already. Laying there, and it's not a rest stop there.
But I can also tell you a different situation on the front of the hotel. There was one that was inebriated, and the ambulance was called, and Holton was right there. So, I mean, he does.
He does a good job.
He does gauge it.
Does. I know
Gauge
that.
it the best he can according to what the RCMP guidelines are, which are if you can still walk.
If you can't walk, move them. Get the police in there and move them away. And these
Okay, well,
ones obviously
that's for
prepared
administration
walk.
to have a discussion with.
But if you look at Skid Row districts in other large cities even,
Yeah,
they do not move them out.
yeah.
I should bring you some picture of the Champs-Élysées in Paris, will be a little stunned.
Yeah.
Okay.
But does that, I have to make the question, does that justify us doing what we do? And keeping them there?
What the difficulty, Councillor, is because by law, they have as much right as you and I. And by law, the RCMP has to be very careful not to look as preying on those people.
I understand that, but by law, it's the street that they have access to and they have the right to be there, the sidewalk. But when you have an alcove into a person's business, that little alcove is private property.
Then it requires that individual to be saying something.
Yeah, they do.
Then it's
They do, and nothing happens. So does not our bylaw officer
Do you know
have the
what?
responsibility to go in and say, you know what, you're on private property, move out onto the sidewalk? If they can't move them along, could they at least say,
Yeah.
you need to move out onto the sidewalk and get off of the private property, this is privately owned business property?
Well,
We did the
that's a-
same, okay, no, I'm not finished yet.
Sorry.
I'll bring a precedent. The library, our back laneway there had that little alcove there. And I was on the library board at the time where we had some serious concerns that it was being used in a very
Yeah.
inappropriate way. And so we decided we had to budget some money and build it in and make it straightway, so there was no alcove that would be hidden, okay? And so we had, that way, we solved that problem. But all I'm saying is, in this situation, this is private property, this isn't town-owned alley or laneway, this is private property, and by law, people, if there's those situations, they should be saying, you know what, move out onto the sidewalk. You can't lay down on somebody's personal property there, business property.
You see, this is where the irony is. They moved then onto a private property, which is a hotel,
Mhm.
and
They should be
left
moved to there too.
Right, and so
To where?
we have to be kind of careful. There are no benches.
They could be asked to move. I realize they're gonna come back, but after a while, being hounded to keep on moving after a while, they're probably gonna find somewhere else to go.
One of our owners, where a problem exists, is 90-some years old.
Yeah, what can he do?
And he's not gonna spend all day down at that place chasing whatever away. And I think he's quite feisty at his age, because I've known him for many, many years. But at the same token, he's, 93 or 94 years old, maybe even older than that.
Has he ever complained to the town about the issue?
I don't think he ever would.
Okay, so that is where the problem starts, right? If there is no complaint, what do
One
we
thing
do?
you can do on a regular basis is go out and hose it down the street.
I'm sorry?
Oh, why did that?
Just hose it down the street, saying, I've got to wash the street, everybody out. Take your hose and wash it down, if somebody's there.
You know, there is a certain amount of, okay. I really don't know where we're going with that conversation, but there are people there that have issues, be it alcohol, be it drug, be it whatever it is. It's more visible than many other people who have issues. And they are human beings, they have rights, and we shall treat them as equal. That's all what I can say.
We had a discussion some time ago about providing some picnic tables in, behind the RCMP on that property back in there. That they would have a safe place that they could congregate and visit. Whatever happened to that conversation? Did we ever follow up on that or go anywhere with it? I noticed that, I think it's Mr. Sorpole that's doing some cleaning up of that area back there, preparing to probably put vehicles in there, leveling it out and everything. On this side of that motel site beside the RCMP,
Just below the hill.
just below the hill.
Yeah, that's not Mr. Circle.
Yeah. Isn't that his
Somebody else
property?
developed.
I think it is.
No, it's not.
Whose property is it? Well, nevertheless, it doesn't
You
matter.
can't disclose that.
Okay, but anyways, whatever happened to that idea of putting in a few picnic tables in there and having a place for them to congregate that, you know, they could be, you know, safe and out of sight off the main street?
That particular area there is private property that's being looked at for development right now, so.
Is it?
Yeah. Which is what.
It is not an easy
Yeah, it's not, I
issue.
know.
He would stay.
It's not an easy issue because we really don't have any program or anything in place as of in many other towns where there are places where they can go in and have something to drink or something to play with or something. There is nothing in our town.
The shelter is closed down for the summer?
No.
They just don't need to go there because there's problems that happen up
But
there.
they're not allowed to stay there all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, not allowed to be there during the day.
And that's a whole issue. On their own land, they're not allowed to stay. What else can I say? Let us go to item 9. If you find a great solution to the problem, I'll be glad to hear it. Okay, 11. Alberta Municipal Affairs is just to let us know they approved our grants and we already spent the money, thank you. B, the town of Raymond, Councillor Peavoy is not there, it's unfortunate at this point because that is something we needed to discuss. That is the issue of starting to create a commission, and the issue that is there that needed to have a sense of what we felt was regarding the appointment of members to that commission and the model. Right now at the commission, everybody has one voice. The Blood Tribe, who is the greatest financial contributor to the organization, feels that as a commission there should be proportional representation according to population. Meaning that if you have a large population, you should have more members making the decisions at the table. So I was asking Jeff, what are other commissions doing in different areas? And the Water Commission, for example, in different towns are exactly based on that proportional model, and that's based according to population. So that is really a very big item to be discussed for the good reason that the Blood Tribe is not really a full member. You would call them an associate member because they are under federal rules and all the rest are under provincial rules. So that creates another level of difficulty. But
Not the least of which is the fact that as members of the authority, they never have a representative there.
well, now they do.
Sounds like they've had.
Do they?
And they have a
That's
very,
excellent.
they
That's
have,
good news.
They've had one or two times or something like that.
yeah, so I have actually a fairly vocal person.
Glad to hear it.
He's not an elected official, he is the person who deals with the transfer
Yeah, he picks
station.
up it.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it would be the closest to the operation. So what is your feeling is proportion
Mayor, you
representation?
go to mayors and reeves, and this has been discussed, I'm sure.
No, not really.
It hasn't?
When Raymond says that their administrative recommendations were reviewed and approved, which specific recommendations is Raymond making reference to?
Jeff could speak
Well,
to that.
and I put this in because it was CC'd to us, but no one's actually asking you for recommendations on anything right now. So because Scott made them, I think he ran them past his council, but Councillor Peavoy hasn't brought anything requesting feedback. He's asked for me to look at a couple of things, but I was hoping that he was bringing it to council for feedback, so
I'm not
really
so
where it's
sure
at.
what to do with this item. Maybe we might have to wait.
Yeah,
Mayor, can we table this item until Councillor Peavoy gets over
Yeah,
here?
we need to have him
That might be
here.
valuable.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm
we need-
attending
we
the
need-
next meeting for the authority, by the way.
Oh.
They've asked the CAOs to come out and sit in on that one.
Yeah,
So I'll
because
have a little better idea.
he's right up to his armpits in Chautauqua, right?
Yeah, so right now essentially is how do we man that commission and under which model? One voice per town or proportional representation? That's really the issue that I have to decide.
There's a good argument for proportional representation.
I totally agree,
And is county involved in this too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
yeah. I totally agree because it allows the town to have also a voice.
So with that in
The
mind,
the communities that would be really annoyed by it would be the Hill Springs,
villages.
Glenwoods.
Yes,
so like I say, how is the county going to be represented proportionally?
I don't know.
Because they take in those small communities.
well,
Well,
they-
Not Hill Spring and Glenwood, they don't.
if they have a
They're their
member
own-
right
they're their
now,
own-
They're incorporated.
They're incorporated.
if they have a member that as a signing member of the authority, they have a vote, the same as the councillors.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
if you think about it, in some ways, it's really unequal. You've got Hillspring or Glenwood with a
In
couple
all
hundred-
ways,
a couple hundred people that
yeah.
has the exact same voice as somebody, as
As
Councillor Peavoy does here.
500.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's an argument to be made for proportional
Right,
representation.
yeah, I would say so.
You have to build
How
a
you do it
building,
is
how
another
you demolish
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
So, 11C, AUMA feedback from stations.
Breakfast.
That is something you could see what happened. There was some feedback I gave, I didn't see it inside there, but anyway, that's a different story. 11D, Pat Steer, MLA, wanted some feedback on Bill 21. We never done that in the past, give
No.
feedback to MLAs, so I really don't know.
I suggest we just stay out of that.
Okay.
That's my suggestion, I don't know about it.
We have consultation with the ministry.
I think this is good information.
Mhm.
You know,
I like page 4.
We still have the.
This was in regards to the meetings that we attended.
Yes.
In Lethbridge, I
Yes.
recognize when I was reading this over, I thought that's a good report, it gives us
I
a
knew
good
exactly what
idea
you were thinking.
of how many people voted for this or that, you know. It was really, really good.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure what MLA Steer is wanting our feedback. When, if any feedback would be given, wouldn't it be through our own MLA?
Well,
And
it's
the,
because it's a voice, it's a critic.
yeah, that's his portfolio.
Is it, okay?
But I really gotta say that the process for this has been pretty non-partisan all the way through. So I'm a little less concerned about that aspect.
Yeah.
I almost think that we're gonna get this one at AUMA. We're gonna get this whole thing again.
We haven't got any real information on courses or
No, not
issues.
that.
Good.
All right, so we leave it the way it is as information. All right, so at this point, we will go in camera. We have 2 items with a land issue, and they are both coming under the FOIP reference 16(1)(c)(I). And
Move to
so,
the camera?
thank you. All in favor? Thank you.
Mayor, it is 6:30.